Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
You know, I was thinking about what we're going to call this now, and I was like, the brain dump, constructed life mashup. Like it's like some cool new hip, like NFT or like burger process. I don't even know. It doesn't even matter. But basically, we got my man here from the brain dump, Anthony Vicino, and we decided.
Can we call it construct your brain dump?
There's the construct your brain dump. There you go. We're going to do, this is perfect. We're filming this at the end of March. Q1 for those nerds out there. Q1 is they love talking about
business speak.
Here's what my favorite thing to do. People that their baby's like 2 years old, but they don't say 2 years old. They say he's 24 months. Like when can we stop using the months? Like that's what I want to know. Like it's the same thing like Q1, Q2. I'm like, I don't even know
what about the Q1 thing is like I don't come from a corporate background at all. And so when I started building businesses, I was probably on my third business and like successful, built and exited these businesses, doing really well. And then I finally got like into a partnership and was building something where everybody started using like Q1, Q2, Q3, like all this like formalized speaking. I was like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what's Q1? They're like, oh, yeah. And I was like, okay, like,
I don't even know what day it is. Yeah, I don't even know what day it is. It's called kill every day. That's very simple. I'm at one setting. It's
every day I'm
fuck
hunting.
Shit up. Yeah, I don't like. Okay, but we decided this will be released in May. It's kind of end of the first 3 months of it's perfect. It's first 3 months of the year. You've been building. We haven't really spoke much. You're building. I'm building. So
I live my life one quarter at a time.
I guess the quintessential plan is I know that y'all were scaling this year. You're hiring. There's a lot of things going on. Kind of, I'm trying to search for the right question. Okay. How would you report you've done in business in the first 90 days of the year? If you had to give yourself a report card.
Report card. Oh, that's a good question. I was journaling this morning about my Q1 goals because, like I said, I live my life one quarter at a time. If anybody gets that reference, do you get the reference?
No.
Oh man, that's Fast and Furious. I live my life one quarter mile at a time.
Okay.
Anyways, I remember. I was revealing my quarter goals this morning when I was journaling, and I was like, okay, how did I do? And I only hit one of my 3 goals. So I was like, God, man, that sucks. But it's kind of like that book, The Gap and the Gain. I think it's an important concept to recognize as high performers or entrepreneurs or whatever you are, that it's really easy to focus on the gap between where you are and where you want to be, rather than thinking about the gain, like where you were versus where you are, right? And reveling in the fact that you've come so far. So like with that in mind, I would give myself a solid B for the business. But that's because we have really ambitious goals. And a lot of times things when you're moving ambitiously, like they're outside of your control. So you're just kind of at the whim of the environment sometimes. Like that's what happens. And that's okay. You just have to control for the inputs that are within your ability to control. And for those things, I think we did pretty good overall. We hired a number of people. We are still needing more. So it's still a problem we're trying to solve for. But I think we see light at the end of that tunnel. In terms of like the reason that we didn't get like a full A+ is because our goal for the year is to acquire another $40 million of assets. And so far we're at 4 million. So we're 10% of the way to the goal. And end of Q1, you look at that and be like, that's not great. You're behind schedule, but there's a reason for that. We have the deal flow and the capital flow lined up now so that we can attack that remaining 36 million in the remainder of the year. So I think we're on pace. We're on course. And I'm starting to see a lot of the systems and like come to fruition, like starting to see a lot of benefit and like the fruits of the labor from the book launch, the podcast, like everything that we've been doing over the last 2 years, like really starting to hit an inflection point. So solid B. How about you?
I'm gonna get to me in a second. I am fascinated with entrepreneurship and business and kind of how it's mirroring this new thing I'm on, which is kind of like scheduling and kind of systems and processes and energy and everything like that is set up like an athlete or like a movie star now, right? Where we're like, there's these hot seasons and then you kind of disappear and clean up your systems and everything. I was listening to a podcast the other day of my favorite guy I'm listening to right now. And they asked Winston Churchill how he got everything done in his life that he got done. And his answer was, I conserved energy when needed.
Yep. That's good.
And so like, I love this kind of framework and kind of thinking. Now for me, I was coming off the end of a hot year and then hit some big, January was amazing. Like bam, 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 big stuff happening. February was kind of a full on shit show, getting stuck in Costa Rica. And then kind of some clients fell through and then some businesses like had to be dissolved. So it was like, and then we picked back up the steam again, like boom, right off the bat. And I think I would give myself a B-, but I would give my energy and vision for the future a AAA.
Ooh,
because everything is happening. I have the right partners now. I have the right energy. We have the right businesses that are all coming that people don't know about. But I think the hardest thing, and this is like, if I could literally get anybody to this point, if you have a bad quarter or a bad week or a bad month, having the belief that if you focus on the process and health and things, that it's all going to come back through. That to me is a superpower when it comes to business.
One of the interesting things about school and the education program system that I found really interesting for myself is that, like, as a person with ADHD, I really struggled on assignments and getting work done outside of the class. Like, I just wouldn't do anything, but I could ace pretty much any test you ever gave me. And so I did really well in school, all told, because we weight things so heavily towards the tests, right? But I think it's really problematic because it's grading based off the result, not off the process. And the very few classes that I took where the professor was like, listen, the tests don't matter. They don't count for anything. What's going to matter is like how many papers you write or how many assignments that you do or how long you spend studying outside of this class and like finding ways to track that metric. So it's about like the time and energy put in, not the results on the test. And I found that to be a much better way for me to learn and to grow discipline in the skill of actually showing up to do work.
For example, I have a client this week who is 2 weeks past on a couple of refis, fucking appraisers and banks these days, right? Yep. And he was really needing those because a bunch of projects showed up and he needed that capital. And now he's kind of in a spot. He's got all these deals coming in. He can raise up his business, but he needs to pay the bills. And like, there's all this thing, right? It's a lot of stress. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I said, dude, I need you to do something. I've worked with you for 6 months. I know your personality. I need you to not do more this week. And he was like, what? And I was like, listen, dude, you're an ultra runner. I want you to run more than you ever ran this week. And I want you to not do all the things that I know you're going to do. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I know your personality and you're going to go schedule 16 things to do a day because you think by doing a bunch of things, you're going to create something that's going to make this problem go away instead of leaning into your health, giving yourself the space to not make an emotional decision and not fill yourself up and be so busy. And I think as an entrepreneur and as just a high achiever, leaning more into your health or giving yourself the space or not scheduling your day up, because just by doing the task or doing 16 tasks in a day doesn't mean you're headed in the right direction. I know that emotionally it's what a lot of people do, but I wanted him to be clear-headed. So if a big decision came on or to be creative, that he wasn't filled up with all these little things that he was doing.
Yeah, that's a really good insight too, because I think we do so often conflate busyness with effectiveness. And when things are going really stressful in the business and it's not really going how we think like it should be, we start to throw in more and more motion, but not necessarily more traction. Right. And so you're getting just as tired, if not more tired, but you're not moving forward. And then you're left feeling even more frustrated because then you look back and you're like, man, I did all this stuff. I'm still not where I want to be. And now I'm tired. It's like triple whammy.
I think what I've created, to go back to the way I reported myself, is that ultimately I have stuff and we have stuff that we're building on a 50-year time horizon. And I'm not joking. Like, I'm being dead fucking serious, like 50-year. And So it's very hard for me to like tell people what we're doing. It's very hard for me to like that's my North Star, and it's very exciting. But it's like kind of juggling this like short-term wins with the long-term vision. What's the executional thing like right now that we can do? And Anthony, every time we break down these multiple business plans with this large scale, it comes back to one thing, right? Education. Mm-hmm. Education, knowledge and training. That's how we're going to win. Is being a value-driven organization within the community, allowing people to better themselves. It doesn't matter what the business is. It doesn't matter what the business vehicle is. It's education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things I've been focusing a lot on these days is less about the business, because the reason I do business these days is because I can. It's fun. I enjoy it, and I want to make an impact, but it's not tied to a financial result necessarily. Like, it's something that I'm trying to find deep fulfillment and meaning out of. And so it's just a vehicle for that. And I've been balancing, struggling with the question still, as I always will, between achievement and fulfillment, and really trying to get to the core of like, what are the things that fulfill me within the business, and starting to focus more on those things. Or just outside of that in general in my life at large, is like, how can I challenge myself in ways that I find really gratifying? So I took up a new sport, and I've been picking up new skills. And because I read this book I read a book recently that it breaks down different personality types in an interesting way, in terms of saying like, what's your, what he calls it, spark type, or like avatar, right? And so like, some people are scientists, and some people are nurturers, and some people are warriors. And each one of these things is defined in a very particular way. And you'd go through this process, and I would recommend it for anybody that's curious about like, what's the type of work that they would find most fulfilling if you're struggling with the question of purpose and meaning, is go to, I think it's called sparktype.com. And the book is called Sparked. It's very good. But my two subtypes, or my spark types, is number one, I'm a maven, and number two, I'm a maker. So maven means like you're fascinated with learning, like just learning for the sake of learning. And then maker is fascinated with creating things, right? And the maker for me is my subtype, which means like, it's not the primary thing driving me, which is interesting, because I used to think it was. I used to think of myself as like, the most important thing I do with my life is writing books and making podcasts, like the act of creation. But I also love learning. And what I came to realize is actually, I only create because it helps me learn more. Mm. Right. And so actually, like, the reason I'm doing all this is for the sake of learning, which, if you know me, like, doesn't sound super surprising.
No.
But like, just that little switch where it's like, oh, the creation is in service to my desire, my impulse to learn. Mm-hmm. And not the other way around. I'm not just consuming information to then go create stuff. And that's actually been really helpful for me as I look at my business now. I'm like, why am I building this? Like ultimately, what's it really trying to do? Oh, I'm doing this to fulfill this need that I have to learn. Mm-hmm. And so on that front, I'd say Q1, A+.
Love it. Dude, I'm intrigued now. I'm going to go take that test. I'm super excited. Guys,
I'll be fascinated to see where you come out. I'll be super fascinated.
As long as it's centered around architecture, or like the architects, they call me the alchemist architect. So I'll take it for sure.
If I have to guess, I'm going to guess it's some kind of maker/nurturer or something.
I like that.
Yeah.
It already feels good. So
it's funny because nurturer is my anti-spark type. They tell you like, what's your antithesis?
Oh yeah. I can see that.
I'm just gonna guess. You're my anti-spark.
Fair enough. That's why we work so good. Guys, send this episode to a friend, share it. We rated ourselves. So we want you to go in, and we want you to look at your Q1, and we want you to rate yourself. Because self-awareness is the key to everything.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.